Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new Hollywood story. Some stories fade with time, but others return years later with a weight that refuses to disappear. Demi Moore's truth is one of them. At 62, she has finally begun speaking with a clarity she never had in her younger years. She now reflects on her past with honesty instead of fear. Her marriage to Ashton Kutcher was once seen as a modern fairy tale, but behind the public glow lived a private struggle. What she hid for years has now become a part of her healing. This is not a story about blame, it is a journey toward understanding. And today, we revisit the love that once looked perfect but slowly broke her from within. Their story began in 2003 when Demi, still fragile from her divorce, met a young Ashton Kutcher who seemed to bring warmth back into her life. He was 25, charming, and gave her a sense of safety she had not felt in years. Their first long conversation lasted nearly 8 hours, creating an emotional bond neither of them expected. He met her daughters quickly, something rare in Hollywood dynamics. To the world, they looked like the perfect blended family. When they married in 2005, people believed they had rewritten the rules of love. But behind the glamour, something fragile was forming. A private tragedy had already begun shaping their future before they ever said "I do." 2 years before their wedding, Demi suffered a heartbreaking miscarriage at 6 months. They had chosen a name for their baby, making the loss even more crushing. Demi carried guilt for years afterward, questioning every decision she made during the pregnancy. The emotional shock pulled her into a deep grief she didn't know how to escape. Ashton tried to cope in his own way but didn't always understand her pain. This tragedy became the first invisible wall between them. They tried treatments, IVF, and different paths to parenthood. But the grief lingered, changing the rhythm of their relationship. And neither of them had the tools to heal from it together. Para 4. While the world saw their smiles on red carpets, Demi quietly began slipping back into old habits she had fought hard to overcome. After nearly 20 years of sobriety, she relapsed during moments of emotional weakness. What started as occasional drinking slowly became a dangerous escape. Ashton, once deeply attentive, began drifting away in ways she didn't understand. Feeling herself losing him, Demi tried harder to fit into his version of love. Every compromise she made left her feeling smaller and more disconnected from her true self. And the distance between them grew, quietly and painfully. In her later memoir, Demi revealed one of the most difficult truths she had kept to herself for years. She agreed to things she never truly wanted, including opening their relationship in ways she wasn't comfortable with. She believed it would make Ashton happy. She believed it would keep their marriage alive. Instead, each step chipped away at her self-worth. She felt herself losing her boundaries, and she didn't know how to stop it. The emotional pressure became heavier than anything she had experienced before. And she didn't tell anyone how much it hurt. As the tension grew, Ashton began traveling more and staying out later, creating a silence in their home that felt like a storm waiting to break. Demi's daughters noticed something was wrong long before the public did. The laughter that once filled their home was replaced with anxiety and unspoken fear. Demi felt abandoned emotionally, yet kept pretending everything was fine. Every day she hoped the warmth she once felt from Ashton would return. But the distance only widened. The love that once felt magical now felt like a memory slipping through her fingers. Everything collapsed in 2011 on the day that should have been their 6th anniversary. Instead of waking up to a celebration, Demi woke up to a headline. A Google alert revealed Ashton had spent the night with another woman. The betrayal hit her like a physical blow. The humiliation was worse because she had seen the same girl before. When Ashton admitted the truth, the moment broke something inside her permanently. And the excuse he gave left wounds that took years for her to understand. He told her that their earlier decisions, the ones she had agreed to out of fear, had blurred the lines. Those words cut deeper than the affair itself. It made her feel responsible for his betrayal. Later, she discovered this wasn't the only time he had been unfaithful. His distance over the years suddenly made sense. Even after the scandal surfaced, Demi had to stand beside him publicly, pretending nothing was wrong. Behind the cameras, her hands trembled. Her heart felt shattered. Her silence became another burden. By November 2011, she finally announced their separation. Her statement was brief, but it held the weight of a woman who had reached her emotional limit. She said she needed to stay true to her values, a simple sentence hiding years of pain. But leaving the marriage didn't bring peace. It only opened the door to a deeper collapse. Without realizing it, Demi had built her identity around trying to be enough. And once that structure fell apart, everything else went with it. In early 2012, her health spiraled. She suffered a seizure at a gathering, a terrifying result of exhaustion, stress, and dangerous habits. The emergency call that night became the moment the world realized something was deeply wrong. But the public didn't see the months of emotional chaos that led to that breakdown. They didn't see the pressure, the loneliness, the silent battles. Demi had reached a point where she no longer recognized herself. And the people closest to her were watching with heartbreak. The months that followed were some of the darkest of Demi's life. She barely ate, dropped to a dangerously low weight, and isolated herself from the world. Her daughters found it painful to watch their mother disappear emotionally. They described those years as frightening. Demi wasn't acting like the mother they knew. Addiction had changed her voice, her energy, and even her presence. For their own well-being, they stepped away. The silence between them stretched for nearly 3 years. In September 2012, Demi checked into rehab, starting a slow journey toward healing. But even then, repairing her relationships with her daughters took time. She had to rebuild trust, one step at a time. Healing didn't come quickly, it came painfully, through honesty and hard conversations. Her daughters eventually began reconnecting with her, starting with her youngest, Tallulah. One by one, they found their way back to each other. The reconciliation was emotional, raw, and long overdue. But it became the foundation for Demi's renewed strength. As Demi worked through therapy and reflection, one truth kept resurfacing. She had spent years believing she was the problem, that she wasn't young enough or fun enough to keep Ashton. She realized she had allowed her boundaries to fade because she thought it would save the relationship. The miscarriage had left her vulnerable, and the emotional imbalance that followed shaped every choice she made afterward. She admitted she had lost herself long before the marriage actually ended. This realization became the turning point in her healing. For years, Demi protected Ashton from criticism. She never publicly blamed him. She kept silent about the betrayal, the distance, the emotional confusion. She believed it was better to carry the pain quietly than to speak out. But as she rebuilt her life in her 50s and 60s, she realized that silence had cost her more than she imagined. Speaking the truth wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming her voice. It was about breaking free from the shame she had lived with for too long. When Ashton later spoke publicly, he acknowledged that the divorce made him feel like a failure. He said he held no negativity toward Demi's daughters. These words didn't undo the past, but they reflected that both had been shaped by the difficult years they shared. Demi did not respond with anger. She responded with maturity, understanding that healing required letting go. She didn't want to remain trapped in old stories. She wanted to move forward. In 2022, the world was surprised to see Demi appear alongside Mila Kunis, Ashton's wife, in a playful commercial. Instead of tension, there was humor. Instead of bitterness, there was respect. Behind the scenes, Demi and Mila built a genuine friendship. They even started a book club together. The world realized that healing was possible even after complicated pasts. Demi no longer saw herself through the lens of old wounds. She was finally finding peace. By 2025, Demi began speaking openly about the deeper truths she had once feared to admit. She talked about how she had slowly erased her boundaries, how she had lost her sense of self, how she had accepted things that didn't align with her values. She wasn't pointing fingers. She was allowing herself to be whole again. She said the greatest mistake she made was abandoning her own needs. And the greatest victory was reclaiming them. Demi now describes herself as solo-partnered, complete on her own, without needing a relationship to define her. She rebuilt her bond with her daughters. She restored her health. She found joy in her work again. She learned to love herself with the same dedication she once gave to others. Her healing became her transformation. And sharing her story became her strength.
At 62, Demi Moore isn't exposing anyone. She is freeing herself. Her truth is not about Ashton's mistakes, it is about her journey back to self-worth. She realized that losing herself was the deepest wound. And reclaiming herself was the greatest triumph. Her story reminds countless people that love can be powerful, but losing yourself for it can be devastating. And healing begins the moment you choose honesty. Demi Moore's journey proves that even the strongest people can fall apart, but they can also rise again stronger than ever. Her story is not just about heartbreak. It is about resilience, courage, and rediscovery. It is about choosing yourself after years of silence. Let me know in the comments, which moment in her journey moved you the most. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Hollywood stories told with honesty and heart.